PR Connections Radio presents the Love of Business Podcast. The love of business, nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit.
All right, welcome to the Love of Business Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Davin Sundvik. Joined with me today is our other host, Edgar Rodriguez, and our guest, Ron Stoker, who is actually a returning guest. So we're going to be doing things a little bit different. We're still going to be introducing ourselves to you guys as the audience. Ron, you'll go first, then Edgar, then I'll close us out for introductions. And Ron's actually going to be leading us in a lot of our conversation topics today, talking about wildlife habitat in Nevada. So Ron, can you go first a little bit, kind of talk about your involvement in WHIN and kind of what you do in business as well?
Yeah, thanks, Davin, for having me on a second time. I appreciate you said I have a face made for podcasting, so you're the best. I'm an owner of Turnkey Property Solutions. We're a property management company here in Southern Nevada region. We do everything from Vegas all the way to Pahrump, Moapa, and Alamo, all rural areas also. And also, I'm a big member of Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada. It's my passion project. It's what lights me up and brings me joy. So Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada, we're a nonprofit here in Southern Nevada. We do a lot with helping the wildlife, from mule deer to waterfowl to even small fish. So do a lot of habitat projects. We also do a lot of education when it comes to, getting people that haven't been out in the outdoors out there, let them experience, what Nevada has to offer when it comes to fishing and hunting and, shooting and recreational sports. Nevada is a phenomenal state, has tons of public access, tons of public lands. I think it's 80% is open to the public. And it's a resource everybody should be able to use. So
awesome. Rock on. Edgar.
Yep. Well, thanks, Ron, for sharing with your passion. My name's Edgar Rodriguez. I'm the co-host along with Davin here on the Love of Business podcast. And I'm also the founder of Master the Network, where we help business owners scale and grow. End of the day, it's letting people know where relationships meet results. And my passion in that is just to be able to have a better economy here in our own valley and, across wherever we are able, to touch another business owner and just get them more acclimated in the areas of business.
Cool. Rock on. Thank you, Edgar. I'm Davin Sundvik. I mainly explain a lot of the real estate side on our podcast. That's where a lot of my expertise comes from. It's from that side of the business. But I'm also really passionate about helping businesses grow in general. I'm a big advocate member of SPARK, that Strategic Professional Advancement and Referral Community. And how I know Ron is actually through Wildlife Habitat Improvement for Nevada. As I kind of learn more about that organization, it's been a really fun place for me to volunteer some of my hours as well. So with that being said, Ron, do you have any questions for us as a guest? I want you to have an opportunity to kind of ask some questions, maybe based on our last conversation when you were on, or just ask questions about WHIN or whatever you may have.
Yeah. So one of the things when I was thinking about this podcast, I thought about Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada and how it's affected my business. And I don't see huge returns from being involved in a nonprofit. It's not like I'm with this nonprofit because I meet people and I network and, that brings me business. The return I've seen is, as business owners and being in high stress situations where you're constantly trying to improve customer service, constantly trying to make that bottom line, constantly trying to make sure your employees are cared for. The stresses of business are numbered and you can't, quantify it. With that, like being involved in nonprofits, I know Edgar's involved in one and so is Davin. how has that helped you guys when it comes to your mental workload and being able to perform better, I guess?
Yeah, I don't mind going first with this one. That's a great question, Ron. And for us, it's finding the right nonprofit, right, that you're passionate about, right? One that I'm involved in with Bunker Labs, and Bunker Labs is across 40 cities. We were talking about a little while ago, and that's where we help veterans, military spouses, and their dependents be able to scale and grow their businesses, right? And me as a coach, I get to empower them and pour in the knowledge that I've learned through my certifications to really see them thrive, right? And not only that, but the fly-ins where we talked about, like, how involved are we in these nonprofits. For me, the mental state is every time I get to go to a fly-in in another city and connect with the other ambassadors from nationwide, that not only over pours my cup, but it really, really fires me up in the essence of, man, we're really, really making a difference, not only in our local community, but nationwide. Wherever we're able to touch other veterans and military spouses who are on that business journey, because the mental state of us it is huge in knowing that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? It's a constant roller coaster, but knowing that you have your brothers and sisters or the people that you're involved with this nonprofit, you have them to lean on. That's another way for you to just communicate across the board of, hey, how are things with you? So for me, that's the long-winded answer, but it's just finding the right nonprofit that resonates with you and it gives you the ability to give back to your community.
Absolutely. I can actually resonate with Edgar on that one a little bit. When you build community with people like outside your business, so for example, like as business owners, sometimes we depend on employees, to do a lot of the tasks that we probably used to do when we started our business or at whatever stage we're in. And it's really good to have a group of people that you can rely on, that you can open up to, and know that you trust them because you've been alongside of them with a common mission. So I think it's more efficient to like build friendships in places where you already have common ground versus just like you meet somebody randomly, they're a cool person. It's like they could be a great friend, but you may not have a lot in common, right? So building those connections with people that you already have such a strong agreement on, I believe is really important. But also, as far as dealing with the stress, I feel like when you have extra resources, whether it's money or time or whatever that resource may be, and you're able to donate it somewhere else, it brings you a lot of peace because then okay, well, if I can have so much extra where I can actually give it away for free, then like if I'm in a really bad time and like I need all that energy, like I've been giving it away for free already, I can always, keep some of that energy or that time or that attention, or that money to myself, get through whatever struggle I'm dealing with, and then go back out the other side and start donating again. So I think it definitely makes you more grateful as a person. So I don't know, Ron, what are your kind of thoughts to our answers there?
Yeah, no, that's one of my my favorite things about Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada is the quality of volunteers that we get. When you're running a nonprofit or you have it's almost like another business, but it's a business where people are coming to work for free. And so you're bringing in these dynamic people, and you're bringing a whole, variety of people. You have people that are blue collar workers. You have people that are running businesses, and you're able to pull them out of their day to day element and be together with, I guess salt of the earth people that light you up and people that make you happy. And with WHIN, we do a lot of projects, where we're outdoors, and so and Davin understated his role in WHIN. He spends hours and hours and hours and days and days and days in the wild or out in the rural parts in Nevada. For example, last year, one of my favorite projects we did with WHIN was the Guzzler Build in Lida. And I'm sure everybody knows where Lida is because I didn't know where it was until we were there last year. I still don't know if I know where it is. But we did this small game guzzler development, which is basically sheet metal on the side of a mountain. The rain hits it, puts it into pipes, puts it into big water holding tanks. And and then in the holding tank so animals have water throughout the year in these arid places. But being around, and it was a 2-day project in the middle of the desert, and just being around these people that you wake up early in the morning and you'd have breakfast together, you'd be up late at night around the fire, and then it was a brutal project. Davin, could you walk the day after? Like, I had a hard time walking after that project.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but I think the thing is like all those people there you have like this newfound respect for, because you're like, we all did it together, you know what I mean? Like we all did this thing that was a lot of work, but like nobody gave up, you know? So
yeah,
like it builds trust, you know, it builds trust with people.
It builds friendships. It builds friendships with people you want to be around. In business, the hardest thing is, can I trust this person? You know, that's a question I always ask. Can I trust this person? Is this person going to be here when I need them, you know? Or is this person just, you know, what's in it for them? What's in it for me? That's a big question in business. But when you come out to these nonprofit events, I'm sure Edgar could speak to this, you get a dynamic of people that what's in it for them is nothing. You get nothing other than a sore body and an empty tank of gas, you know? But you get these friendships, and you get to be outdoors, and you get to meet people that you know that they have good intentions. And so I think that's this big part of being in a nonprofit and being part of a business, because sometimes it's hard to tell people's intentions, but it's easy to tell their intentions when they're out there working for free. Have you noticed that in your nonprofit, Edgar, at all?
Yeah. You know, a lot of us that do donate our time with, whether it's Bunker Labs or like the other nonprofits that I'm involved in, or like the Veteran Social Club, right? And it's figuring out, like, one, we're all trying to figure out our business and get things off the ground, but at the same time, it's that selfless act of just coming together, uniting, and knowing that the nonprofit is there to make an impact, right? Nonprofits, you mentioned earlier, are a business. And that's where a lot of nonprofits really have to think a little bit differently, is that the solution they're solving for should finish that nonprofit at some point in time. And what you were talking about is getting a bunch of individuals together, or people who are passionate about, hey, how do I make this impact, or how do I make a difference by donating my time in this nonprofit to be able to, you know, give back and be selfless, right? It's having that of service mentality. And yeah, we're not getting paid, but at the end of the day, you're meeting like-minded people. You're meeting people that they have to have time on their hands in order to donate to the nonprofit, right? And you meet high caliber people that keep you accountable and will mentor you. At the end of the day, is their way of paying it forward is by impacting that nonprofit.
Well, you said something interesting about, like, they have to give their time. Do you think there's always time you can find to give if you look hard enough?
Well, 1,000%. You can't manage time, for sure. Time is not manageable, but you can manage yourself, right? You can choose as an individual who you spend your time with, how you spend your time, and you have the ability. You know, there's 24 hours in a day. You know, how many hours do we sleep? You know, how many hours do we work? And if you reverse engineer that, and you are very, very aware of how you're spending your time, yeah, you can find time. Definitely find time to do things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Davin, do you think it's a good use of your time? Like, is it a good use of your time to give for a nonprofit? You're a busy guy. You're always you're crazy. But I mean, what's a good use of your time?
I think it's one of those things where I think there's a lot of time on projects that, like, I would have used that time for something else in the field. And like every single day in the field is like more knowledge about your craft, more knowledge about what you do. So like if you have a hobby and you can find a nonprofit that's heavily closely related to it, you just get to spend more time in your hobby, you know? So yeah, it's some of those things that are, I would say, like out of the way, that definitely makes it more of a true donation. And that's what makes you really go, okay, like this is a commitment for me. Like I'm really about this, even when it's not convenient. But I'd say there's a lot of things that, like, for example, there's some smaller projects I participated in Mount Charleston. didn't take a lot of my time to do, and I really enjoy that habitat anyway. And I get to learn cool things about the habitat that I'm already interested in. So I think it definitely helps justify the amount of hours I spend doing it for sure. But I think I'm getting a little bit off topic with the the answer here. But yeah, no, there's a lot of ways where you have to find time, but there's definitely ways where you can also overlap, and the time that already exists, you're already spending it doing something so similar that why not just shift it to something. One small shift is the difference between Nevada getting benefited and just me getting benefited. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about like business owners looking to pick a nonprofit, because I think one of the most important things you could do with a business is to pick something to give back to, because it's good for your mental health and it's good for your business. I don't know how it makes my business better, but it does. It does make my business better. Maybe it's because I'm just able to perform better. But when it comes to picking a nonprofit, what do you think is important about choosing the right one, Davin?
I think you have to be genuinely aligned with it, because you have to understand, like, if you're going into it with the mentality of like, I need a return on investment, then you don't have, in my opinion, you don't have enough resources to be donating your time or your money, right? If you have to get a return on investment on everything you do, like, there's probably other better things to be doing with your time, like maybe go back to school, get an education, right? But I think you can actually, in my opinion, I think you can make a great return on investment in dealing with a nonprofit that you're already going to be passionate with, because you're going to meet people that you're aligned with, and then you're going to meet other business owners that are also aligned with the same cause, and you're going to want to do business with those people, and you're going to have a certain level of trust that you couldn't have built on the street or just like calling somebody that you saw their Google listing, so I would say the trust saves enough time for me that I'm actually able to invest more into my business, because I've saved time building trust with people that I wouldn't have built trust with. So that's how I benefit from being in a nonprofit, is that trust being built faster.
How do you think, Edgar? How would you pick a nonprofit if you were to do it again and start off fresh?
Great question. For me, I'm going to echo what Davin said is the alignment, right? The mission of what that nonprofit's about has to align and resonate with you. For me, most veteran organizations that are truly trying to make a difference, right? That's what speaks to me, because I understand what the veteran went through, right? Especially going through combat. So how could I give back, find, and for me, it's you never know who you're going to meet if unless you go and spend the time to build a relationship with someone, right? Not necessarily am I there to pitch or sell my product. Is one, I genuinely want to help the nonprofit, and two, our minds are just curious, very, very curious, right? So if you start to take the time to actually build a relationship, get to know people, you never know who you're going to meet, right? That person, and especially here in Vegas, we're like 1 degree from separation. We're all connected in one way, shape, or another. And it just takes that one connection or one introduction that can change the landscape of your business. You have to be there for what you're there for, not necessarily, like I said earlier, we're not there to pitch or sell our product. But if I had to do it all over again, for me, it's always going to be choosing that path of how can I help my community with helping in the veteran advocacy side, right? In being able to say, look, I understand what you've gone through. I understand because I've been there in your shoes, right? I've gone to combat. I've been where you've been, so I understand you. So how can I give back? For me, it's always going to be that of just having a greater impact to give back to those who gave everything for us.
Yeah. I think if business owners are listening and they're like, well, I'm not really involved in something. What I have learned from being, I think I'm involved in multiple nonprofits on the wildlife side, is you figure out what your passion is. Like, this is like, if that's the thought in your head, like, I want to help, children, or I want to help veterans, or I want to help wildlife, or and you have that desire, right? Then find the nonprofit that's established. I could guarantee you they need help. They need help. They just need you to show up. If you start showing up to meetings, they will take you with arms wide open 90%. And if they're not, there's another one that will. I talk to Davin about this all the time. People are like, well, I want to be involved in the outdoors. I'm like, we don't turn anybody away that shows up. If you show up, we want you and we like having you there. And you are going to benefit so much more in your passions and your desires than you could ever imagine. That's been my personal experience. Let's talk about something like if you're running a nonprofit. How do you motivate volunteers? How do you get them to show up? How do you how do you get them to perform like employees when they're not employees? What do you think, Edgar?
I think it's going to go back to like the relationship building, right? How do you motivate them is the culture that you build and the relationships you build with them, right? So understanding, like, hey, what made you decide, or how did you pick our nonprofit, and just take the time to see what it is that they're looking to get out of the nonprofit, right? Me, I'm extremely great at asking questions and figuring out, what makes that individual tick. Like what are they passionate about? How do they want to make a difference? What do they want to get involved in? And how can we help, expedite that process for them? So for me, in running a nonprofit, it's just getting more involved with your actual personnel, the leaders, right? Seeing who wants to step up and making sure that you're pouring into them as much as they're pouring into that nonprofit.
Yeah. What do you think, Davin?
So when it comes to motivating volunteers like employees, I don't want to skirt the question, but I almost want to say, like, you don't really want to motivate them like employees. You almost want to treat them like owners. You know what I mean? Like you want them to have a sense of ownership of the result, right? That's not transactionally based, right? Like they're not expecting anything in return. Like they want to see the mission accomplished as much as every single other person there. So I think that's the gold standard of motivating people in nonprofits. I've motivated people in the political space. When I was in college, I used to volunteer for a political organization. We were involved in a couple of other political organizations too. Then transitioned into Spark, which is a professional development related group, and volunteered there and built that up as a founder. And then now that I'm involved in WHIN, I feel like I see a lot of the same trends of you have to have a significant portion of the people there because they're motivated as the owner. Like they feel like they own a piece of the group, like they are a part of something that can't be given up. Just like you wouldn't want to give up stake in your company, they wouldn't want to give up membership or affiliation in that community. So I feel like that's the most important factor. And then outside of that, there's other small ways to motivate people. People always want something that they can't buy. And so I feel like sometimes it's information or it's relationships or it's connections or it's experiences. Like when I was building Spark, we had a lot of invitations to other really high level networking groups, and we could give people access for free a lot of times because we were Spark affiliated. So that was a huge motivator for some people to just like check our group out. And then once they kind of learned a little bit about us and they're invested, then it's easy, right? Then they feel like they're a part of the community. They feel like they have that ownership. They feel like they are a driving factor in the direction that the community goes in. And then they want to be more invested into it. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that ownership thing. Like we just recently did the numbers in WHIN, right? Last year's banquet, we made around 115,000, right? And there's something in the wildlife community that if volunteers come and work, the federal government will pay them basically $100 an hour. And so we took all these projects and we took our 100,000 and, we bought materials, we bought food for the volunteers, we bought, shirts and things of that nature. But we took that $100,000 and through our volunteer hours and through their ownership, we made it up. We basically through the Key Pittman Fund, we made about $750,000 that goes back to wildlife, And so as members of our group that are showing up and they're counting their hours, they're counting their miles, there's no paid positions in WHIN. There's no paid positions. with any of the volunteers. They don't get reimbursement for gas. They get reimbursements for materials and they get fed, when they show up these projects. But we were able to take that $100,000 and make it $750,000 that went back to the Nevada Department of Wildlife for them to do more projects. And so when it comes to that ownership and things of that nature, you're absolutely correct. You're 100% on, Davin. Thanks for sharing that. What about the balance between making money for a nonprofit versus being a true nonprofit? What do you think? How does that work, Davin?
I'll jump in real quick.
Okay.
I'll say with balancing that, it's especially with a nonprofit, I'm going to say it's extremely important to have that board of directors, right? And in having the board of directors, tasking them, like that's their job, is to shake more people's hands, right? And find those dollars that are going to impact that nonprofit. Running the nonprofit, your board of directors are the ones that hold you accountable, right? And making sure that you're running the nonprofit the way it should be ran, right? And having those accountability people, those mentors that are going to drive you and making sure that you're balancing both sides of that scale, whether you're running your business and you're running the nonprofit.
Amen. All right, we're running against the clock right here, so all right. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, can I give a quick? Yeah, we're catching every word. Can I give a quick pitch for WHIN real quick, Davin?
That's what I was going to say. Go ahead and take 1 minute and tell people how they can get involved with WHIN and how they can get in contact with you if they feel like they can be aligned with wildlife.
Absolutely that. So if you've ever wanted to be outdoors, you like hiking, you like nature, you like hunting, you like fishing, and you want to, or you've ever had the inkling that you want to do more, we have our meetings every fourth Thursday at the VFW post. I'll have Davin put it in the chat or something. And then also we have a huge banquet coming up, and this is where we make all of our money throughout the whole year. It's the Wildlife Habitat Improvement in Nevada banquet. Tables are $1,050. You get 10 seats with that. There's games, there's raffles, there's live auctions. Just as an example, last year we had when I first started, we had a hard time selling tables. Now the tables sell themselves. It's a very fun, casual banquet. There's a lot of alcohol. I don't know if you're into that. And a lot of gun raffles. And it's not, you don't have to wear formal attire. It's usually cowboy attire or just a nice button up, and families welcome. My family of 5 comes and helps. It is one of my favorite things to do all year. So if you'd like to buy a corporate table, we're a 501c3, everything you get written off. Every table comes with a handgun. You have to qualify through, you have to go through the normal background checks, but it's going to be a good time. If your business wants to give back to wildlife, they want to support the banquet, come get a table. You'll have a blast. I almost can guarantee it. So
go ahead and say the best way to get in contact, whether it be phone or email, and just give them that contact real quick here.
Yeah, the best contact is WHIN, WHIN, at WHINLV.org.
Cool.
So, or you can call me on my cell phone, 702-449-2560. So
awesome.
Okay, whatever you want to do. Just show up. You're going to have a good time. So
Edgar, what'd you get out of the conversation? What's the nonprofit that you feel like you're aligned with that you want to talk about for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm involved in a few nonprofits, right? I help you guys with Spark. I help, I'm one of the local ambassadors for Bunker Labs. I'm a champion for what the Veteran Social Club is doing with TJ's organization. I mean, that for me, anything veteran related that I can give back or have a little impact in our community, that fills my heart.
Nice, rock on. I'm going to go ahead and close this out and try to keep us on track. So normally I talk about Spark, but today I'll kind of double down on WHIN. If you feel like you've got any inkling towards wildlife, or you're a hunter or you're a fisherman or some kind of an outdoorsman, we do want to welcome you with open arms, and it's a really fun community to be a part of. I think I am nominated to become vice president from what I hear. So I hope that I get to learn from Ron's leadership, as he's held that position in the past. And if you want to get involved, you can contact me personally, 702-518-1606. Thank you for watching the Love of Business podcast, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, guys.